An existential crisis. Will the drought reach 3 long years without a national championship for the SEC? This is the College GameDay Podcast. Rece Davis and Dan Wetzel with you. Pete Thamel still OFP out for the pod as he celebrates the birth of his lovely daughter, Tegan. Wife Kate is doing well, and we're delighted. Dan's going to be a regular visiting with us anyway. Yep.
Let me jump this right in, Rece.
Oh, okay.
I am Dan Wetzel. Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt your introduction
No,
of me, which is really the most important part.
That's
of
the
the
most
show.
important thing. Yeah.
Just a little back on how Rece, Pete, and I would talk in a group chat. Right, Rece, you're concerned about you got the scouting report here on Tegan. Because I don't know about your wife, but my wife will I'll say my friend Sully had a baby, and they're like, oh, really? Was it a boy or a girl? I'm like, I don't know. He just couldn't play golf. Like, I don't have any details. Right? I have no details. So she sees Pete and I are texting, and he's asking about like the Kent State non-conference schedule or something like that. She'd be like, well, is Tegan feeding well, or sleep? What are the details here? And then we get this from Rece Davis. We get this from Rece Davis in this text. And you explain yourself, please. He goes into full Phil Steele mode. Phil Steele mode. Here
I
it
did.
is. VHT Tegan Thamel arrived at 7 pounds 3 ounces. My computer's projected 7 pounds 2 ounces! Exclamation point. And 19 inches was 7 of my 9 computer rankings projected exactly. Dad Pete Thamel was IFS but OFP 5 weeks before week 0, but remains strong in my PR. It goes on. This is hysterical. Is this it? Phil Steele breakdowns of Tegan Thamel out of you, Rece?
That's it. Well, my SMI is Tegan +4 teamed with VHT PS number 1 Teddy Thamel. Both are going to be in the PSL. Kate Thamel believes they're not only
head
contenders in Southie. Yeah, HC had Kate Thamel.
Yeah, HC Kate Thamel.
Contenders in Southie, but also AA and national championship contenders. I thought Pete might get a laugh out of that.
I tried to. My wife was just like, "What? What is happening?" I go. I need the Phil Steele. I need my Phil Steele. I don't even remember all these. The code. Anyway, that's what's going on.
No one does.
So
No, I wonder. No one remembers Phil's code. I don't remember if he's always had it, but several years ago he's got. I mean, it almost takes half a page in the magazine now to do all of the abbreviations.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of info in Phil Steele. But this is what we're doing as we wait. How ready are we for week 0? That's how ready Rece Davis is. That's how prepped he is.
But by the way, for those who might not know, and I won't make you grab your Phil Steele and look it up, but chances are, if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, you probably have your copy. So you know that VHT is very highly touted, and IFS is in for spring. So anyway.
Oh, in for spring. Okay.
In for spring. Oh, you didn't know that.
I did not.
Were you struggling with it?
I struggled. I struggled. I think I was just laughing.
Yeah.
I was trying to defend this discussion. But anyway.
But it is true. It's very true. It's like some of the comedy skits you see with guys, and the wife will ask, how's Dan? No, I won't say Dan because I wouldn't wish this on you. How's Fred doing after his divorce? And the guy goes, Fred got divorced. He has a new driver. I think he bought a new car.
Right.
It's a way. It's a way.
Seemed okay. He came out of the sand well today. Yeah, I don't know.
It was pretty good. Dan, let's talk SEC. It's been a couple years since the Southeastern Conference won a national championship, unprecedented, at least in this era of college football. I say somewhat tongue-in-cheek. I still think that top to bottom, it's probably the best conference for 2 reasons. And I can hear our Big Ten friends, oh, there you go again. It's not because they have more championship contenders, although this year they might have a couple more on the edge. They have fewer truly horrible teams, typically, year in and year out. I expect that to be the case. And if you want to refer to it, it's upper middle class. Bubble college football playoff type teams or sleepers. I think there's probably more of those in the SEC than in the other leagues. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think year in, year out, that's just the way it is. I think they have 10 programs that have realistic expectations to win a national title. And there's no other conference that has that. Obviously, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Auburn, maybe 9, maybe Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss had a heck of a team last year, but
Yes, they did.
those schools are at least sitting there saying, "Hey, if we not every year, not this year, okay? Auburn unlikely to win the national title this year, but they're like, if we get our stuff together, we can win a national title, and that there just isn't that depth in any other league, and so I think that's what really drives it is the middle class and the upper middle class are better. Whoever is bottoming out at this point is smaller number, and that's what I think they argue about with this strength of schedule and with the 9-game schedule and the 8-game is, hey, look, we rarely have an easy week, and maybe it's 1 week, but that's it. You don't have that kind of string of games, so that's why I generally see the SEC as just the best conference because it's the deepest.
As we dive into these teams, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to keep saying it on the pod until the aggregators pick it up and create some type of controversy because of it. In my judgment, the dumbest argument of all of the arguments between the conferences is number of games played. Now, let me offer this caveat. I've told a lot of officials in the SEC, athletics directors, Sankey and I have had this conversation. I think they should play 10 conference games. I think it's better for the sport. I think the players want to play it. It's certainly better for television. The court will stipulate to that. But 9 versus 8, which 9 in the Big Ten? Which 8 in the SEC? Because as we're talking about the SEC, Oklahoma's 8-game schedule last year was completely different from Texas' 8-game schedule. Florida's was way more difficult than Texas. I would argue that Florida's and Oklahoma's 8-game schedule greatly surpassed Indiana's 9-game conference schedule. So arguing this sheerly on the number of games because of the sizes of these two conferences is a fool's errand, in my judgment. It always, year in and year out, is going to depend on which games. What they should do is should be incumbent on the committee, if that's the way we go, or incumbent on any formula that we were to devise. Now, I know that might make you shudder to devise a formula in there, but whatever we devise, take the schedule in its entirety. I also don't care if they play a representative schedule, if they play one FCS game. Jimbo Fisher, for instance, used to advocate for that because he came from playing at that level and talked about how it helped sustain football. Now, nobody wants a steady diet of it, and nobody loves it the week that it happens in November, but I really don't care if it happens week 1 or week 11. I don't. If you're playing just one of them, okay. The schedule as a whole, all 12 games, whatever it is, a fair measure among all of the conferences. And this argument between 8 and 9 is foolish in my judgment.
Well, Rece, you just chose violence right off the top here. You're just wading in. That's what we like. Look, I agree, totally agree. I mean, we're adults here. We can analyze a schedule and say, hey, these were good teams. They played more good teams than not. This arbitrary nature is dumb. The dumbest subset is what you just mentioned. They play an FCS or a weak team in November. Well, that's because they started the conference season 1 week earlier. What's the difference whether you play them in September or November? Yeah. Now, if it's advantageous to do it in November, so your injured team, your tired team maybe gets a little rest, well, you lose the advantageous nature of we're breaking in a freshman quarterback or a new team, and we need a little easy. So if it's such a great idea, just do it. If the other leagues want to do it, just do it. No one's stopping you from playing games on November 22nd against somebody easy. That is the dumbest subset of that. But I agree. Let's just analyze what the schedule was. 8 games, 9. Arbitrary nature is not good. And I don't see how the Big Ten kind of threatening the SEC with this, you must play 9 is going to work. Generally, I don't think the SEC schools are going to take kindly to bayonet diplomacy, if you will.
They'll dig in and not do it just because.
Yeah.
If it comes to that. Let's talk these teams. And speaking of breaking in new quarterbacks, a lot of the teams that you mentioned right off the top in the SEC that have aspirations of winning the national championship, will be breaking in new quarterbacks. LSU is the obvious exception to that. Texas is a little bit of a hybrid. I think most people are going to pick Texas. The media pick Texas atop the league. They'll be the highest ranked team when the preseason poll comes out in short order. Texas has some holes to fill otherwise, though, on both lines of scrimmage. They feel good about it. Are you in the camp where at the moment you would have Texas as the highest ranked SEC team?
I would. I would. They bring enough back. There's great depth in the program, and Arch Manning obviously is a new full-time starter, but we've seen enough that we should think he's going to be pretty good. I've said repeatedly on this podcast, the interesting part to me is so much is banking on a player that we haven't really seen play. This isn't Johnny Manziel coming back, Tim Tebow coming back, that kind of stuff. So there's sky high expectations for Arch Manning, but I think we've seen enough that you should feel fairly confident in going, they have a good quarterback. It's not a complete unknown. But look at, can Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, those guys produce, where do they fill some gaps? I feel confident. I also think the transfers they brought in, they spent a lot of money, probably good players. It's hard to do these things because you don't know these transfers. We'll get to more ridiculous transfers later, but I would give Texas the nod here to win the league.
I think a couple of guys to watch in the transfer thing from my time down in Texas, Murad Watson, who, ask a couple of guys, people who aren't household names right now that might be soon. He came up. Many know him in football. He was a freshman All-America at Syracuse last year. He's coming in. They think Jelani McDonald in the secondary is really going to take off and pop. And certainly they've got great pass rushers too. And that's a great place to start. C.J. Baxter's coming back off a knee injury at running back. I like Texas' opportunity to at least play in the SEC championship game. Another team that's right there, two teams that played for the SEC championship last year, Texas and Georgia. And even though, like Arch Manning, we saw some of Gunner Stockton, albeit in very difficult circumstances for Gunner Stockton, I still think there's a question for Georgia at quarterback. I mean, Georgia has some holes to fill. They went out and did a good job in the transfer portal as well. They got a game breaker potentially at wide receiver in Zachariah Branch. I remember when he started early on at USC doing a highlight from a Friday night game that he played. I think he returned a punt for a touchdown and saying to Desmond Howard, that reminds me of somebody. He kind of reminded me of Desmond a little bit in the way he moved and his knack for seeing the field, particularly in the return game. Hasn't been as much of a game breaker for SC the last couple of years. I think he's one of the guys that Georgia is counting on to give them a little more explosive capability. They had all kinds of problems with drop passes last year in the wide receiver core, and they're hoping that some of the transfers will change that for them.
I think the transfers give a spark. They're filling some gaps, no question. This is not the loaded Georgia teams of a couple of years ago. It's a different era of college football. I'm all in on Gunner Stockton, though. I am all in on Gunner Stockton, and here's why. In this era of NIL, in this era of college quarterbacks making all this money, great Mark Schlabach, our colleague at ESPN story last year, revealed Gunner Stockton, who alone is named after his great-grandfather, who was a gunner in World War II on B-17s. He drives a two-toned 1984 F-150 with crank windows, no AC. No AC in Georgia. That's his car. The guy could, Carson Beck had a Lamborghini. This kid's driving around in a 1984 F-150. One time as a kid growing up in Georgia, for Christmas, he received 4 cows and a bull as a Christmas present. Okay. He hunts alligators. He traps. Are you kidding me? Gunner Stockton is the most Georgia quarterback of all time, and he's going to win. He's going to be good. That's it. That's my analysis.
A lot of the quarterback races will come down to who's going to win the locker room. I would suggest it, not to say Carson Beck didn't have the locker room last year, but Lamborghini versus F-150. The linemen like the F-150 guy. They like the alligator wrestling guy. And I think Gunner Stockton has physical ability. He wasn't a nobody. He wasn't a walk-on. He wasn't Although Stetson Bennett turned out, to be brilliant, he wasn't sneaking into the program like Stetson did. Gunner Stockton was a guy, and I agree with you. I have a lot of confidence in him. Do want to see it. I don't think it's unreasonable to say I want to see it from there. What we've seen plenty of, another contending team that doesn't have a quarterback issue, maybe some refinement in his game in terms of taking care of the ball. But Garrett Nussmeier and LSU, and we're going to find out a ton about them on the opening week of the season when they go to Clemson. Why Brian Kelly chose to poke the tiger, so to speak, with Death Valley Jr., I do not know. But we'll find out who has seniority there. I really like LSU, but I do have some questions. I know they went to work in the portal. Great portal class for LSU. But man, did they lose some dudes up front. I mean, they lost draft choices, most notably Will Campbell. I think they lost 4 of their 5 starters up front. But they did a good job in getting some pass rushers in the portal. They got some receivers in the portal, including Barrion Brown from Kentucky, Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. They're hoping that Chris Hilton finally has a breakout year for them. And Nussmeier, man, there aren't many guys in college football right now that is more fun just to watch him turn one loose than it is Garrett Nussmeier. He has no fear.
Absolutely. And he doesn't really turn it over much. Like a really good, he will play the game. He's looking for the big play, but he's been pretty careful with the ball. Yeah, I agree. Look, it's all in when the head coach throws $1 million into the collective. And that's how important this class was. Can they get a running game going? Didn't really have that last year. Can they get a secondary, which is crazy to say about LSU? And obviously a lot of questions up front, but they have the quarterback. I think they're going to have the game breakers. The issue, schedule at Clemson obviously starts. This is a big thing. They haven't won an opener in years. Brian Kelly has made it a priority. Okay, cool. At Ole Miss, at Alabama, at Oklahoma. That's a lot on the road. They're going to be in a meat grinder. Do they have the team to make it through that to get into the playoffs? I think they do, but it's not going to be easy.
No program signed more transfers who started at least 6 games at other Power 4 schools than the Tigers did. So they went out, spent their money on guys who've been around. And the other team, the only other team, you can add one if you like, that I put in that upper echelon of championship contenders is Alabama. And the question is obvious. I think Alabama is largely set everywhere except quarterback. They have 3 really talented guys, 3 highly recruited guys, but none of them have played. And it's the most important position in the sport. I said on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, if they get not adequate, not, proverbial game manager, although game manager is the first job for a quarterback, but as long as they have a guy who makes some plays at quarterback, doesn't have to be all world, but makes some plays, I think they can win the national championship. They've got all of the other pieces.
Well, and also Kalen DeBoer brings Ryan Grubb back as the offensive coordinator. He spent a year in the NFL after obviously doing tremendous work together at Washington. So how big of a role does that play on whoever the quarterback ends up being, whether it's Ty Simpson or somebody else? The defense looks like an Alabama defense. That's the part I'm really excited about. LT Overton, Tim Keenan III, Dante Lawson, like those are some hitters. That's some old school Alabama. Keon Sab on the outside, Bray Hubbard. This is going to be a great defensive team. And can the quarterback develop over the season? He should get great coaching. I like Alabama a lot also.
And Ryan Williams, whose production was meteoric in the early part of the season and fell off in the second part of the season as their passing game struggled at times in the latter stages of the season. Having Grubb back, having a quarterback who can run, and those 3 guys can run, but maybe less inclined to run than Jalen Milroe, may get them playing on time a little bit more. Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton, a transfer from Miami. Alabama's got a lot of weapons. They, too, are going to be tested. Florida State will be wanting to prove a point early. They've got Wisconsin at home. They're at Georgia. All of this before September comes to an end. Those are the teams that we have deemed at the very top. Doesn't mean that they're only ones who are contenders to wind up there. We'll look at the next tier, at least to start in the SEC, when we continue on the College Game Day podcast. Back on the College Game Day podcast, Rece Davis and Dan Wetzel. Dan, this next tier of teams in the SEC that could win the league, could make it to the playoff, it's an expansive group. South Carolina is the team that people love, largely because of Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart on defense. What do you think of the Gamecocks' chances to contend to get into playoff?
Well, huge Lenore Sellers fan, and if he continues to grow the way he did last year, they're going to have one of the top couple quarterbacks in the SEC, potentially, one of the best. This program's on the rise, and it's not always linear when you are trying to build a program. And so I think there were some issues last year that maybe people wanted more out of them. By the end of the year, I think you could make the argument South Carolina of all the SEC teams left out was playing as good a football as anybody in the league. They weren't really a contender on paper the way Alabama or maybe Ole Miss was, but you certainly could make that case that they were better. So I think it would not surprise me if they put it all together this year behind Lenore Sellers.
Texas A&M, another team with a young quarterback who had flashes last year. Our friend Bill Connolly with the continuity chart has the Aggies second in the SEC, top 10 in the country in returning production. Lots returning on the lines of scrimmage. Elko teams are historically very physical and tough. You put A&M in that category as a sleeper?
Absolutely. Again, Marcel Reed, terrific quarterback. You're getting some experience. He was a really good recruit, and he put it together, had some big games against LSU and different things like that. And then I think they've got really good running attack, Amari Daniels and Le'Veon Moss. So there's an offense there. I'm always Mike Elko. I don't worry about his defenses in any way. So I think this is a team that can punch above its weight, steal a couple games, and absolutely be a playoff team down in College Station.
There are probably three teams that I group together that it wouldn't shock me if they have great years and get into the into contention. I try to stay away from that whole end the conversation thing. We overuse that, but into contention, into evaluation for a playoff spot. Florida's one. DJ Lagway's health is the biggest deal for the Gators. He is a potential star at quarterback. Oklahoma is the other. Their defense is going to be good. A ton coming back, and now they've revamped their offense. They have John Mateer from Washington State and his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, coming to try to take a little step up in weight class. Missouri is another one of those teams. And a team that I would put in there that's really, really sneaky, I'd put Auburn in that group as well, with Jackson Arnold coming from Oklahoma. They've got a super talented young receiving core. They've got a breakout star on defense in Kelrick Falk waiting to happen. O-line's a question mark and tough schedule. But of those teams, who are you buying? Who are you selling in that group of teams in the SEC? You could probably throw Ole Miss and Austin Simmons at quarterback in there too, though Lane's having to kind of overhaul that entire roster.
Yeah, I would have mentioned Ole Miss. I think the Gators. I think Lagway, the health is, he's already got a little bit of a ankle issue day to day already. We're going to see what happens. If he's healthy, this is a dynamic player. I mean, this is a super talented player who was a true freshman quarterback, and the spark that he provided probably gave Billy Napier that momentum. And this is a team that's 4-5 in the middle of the season. They had to, Scott Strickland had to come out early in the year and say, we're not going to, Napier is our coach and all of that. Mm-hmm. They finished, they beat LSU, they beat Ole Miss, they beat Florida State, they beat Tulane. So they finished strong, and that's the team. I think it's Lagway, good running attack, receivers returning. Question again, schedule at LSU, at Miami, at A&M, at Ole Miss, Georgia at a neutral site, Texas, Florida State visit. The Gators have had such a hard schedule these years. And it was even like last year, the schedules have been so tough, you can make growth and not win. And I think last year was that they also were just ravaged with injuries. incredible amount of injuries and turnover, and they could never get a cohesive deal. I think the Gators, if Lagway is healthy, have the potential to make a jump that people aren't quite seeing, and they're a playoff contender.
There is some impatience among Florida fans. They're used to winning, with the Spurrier era and the Urban Meyer era. They're used to contending for championships. I thought it was such a wise move to stick with Napier, and I will admit, I thought he was done. Not because I don't think he's a good coach. I do. But the way they started, things going sideways early on last year, the performance against Miami, but they didn't quit on him. And I think one thing you see, and we say all the time, in this era of sports, the feeling of team and camaraderie and pulling together is not what it once was. It was pretty evident that that was happening in Gainesville last year, because they had every reason in the world to start looking and saying, okay, where's my agent going to get me next? This is done here. And they never did. And I thought that was really, really impressive. Spoke well for Billy Napier. But if they're going to take a step in the right direction this way, they have to have Lagway healthy. I mean, they were giving Georgia everything it wanted, until DJ got hurt again. If they can, he had the shoulder thing, he was in a boot, as they start camp, they expect him to be ready to go. Just have to find a way to keep him healthy, if they do. So yeah. all of those teams, I think, have things fall in their direction. Maybe spring one that you're not supposed to get, and there's the opportunity. Before we go to break here, what do you got on Vanderbilt? Everybody back, Diego Pavia back, best soundbite in the SEC, maybe in college football. You put Vanderbilt there, or Vanderbilt just pulled a big upset last year, got close a couple of other times, and they're still Vandy. Maybe a better version of Vandy, but still Vandy.
I would say, I guess it depends what we're talking about with sleeper. Playoff team, maybe not. But even more dangerous than last year, absolutely. Diego Pavia is a joy. He was so much fun at New Mexico State. He gets this fifth year with this crazy legal argument. My JUCO doesn't count, right? JUCO year doesn't count, which he actually had a pretty good case, but and he won it. But, he's fun. The team is going to be more dangerous. I would say, are they going to really run the gauntlet and get to like 9-3 that you probably need to get into a 12-team playoff? Probably not. But it's not these days of, I remember Steve Spurrier once saying the thing about Vandy is they always show up in the NFL draft highlights when guys are, you're showing the guy.
Yeah.
The Ravens draft this wide receiver from Ole Miss, and he's running by Vanderbilt guys. Those days are over. Vanderbilt's coming along, and this should be a fun season for the Commodores.
At South Carolina, at Alabama, at Texas, and the week after Texas, they play Auburn at home, where Diego Pavia, if memory serves, will have an opportunity to go 4-0 in his career against Hugh Freeze, having beaten him, I think, at Liberty, and then obviously winning the game last year. So,
yeah, I mean, for a long time, the Vandy road game was like go up there, win, and then hang out on Lower Broadway, right? Have a good night. Great weekend, great party weekend. Buckle up. You're not assured of anything. You're not assured of anything except Lower Broadway will be there for you.
Yeah, Nick Saban got a little bit of heat saying, I think he said on McAfee's show, maybe not too long before Vanderbilt beat Alabama, that that was the only place in the league. It wasn't a tough place to play, and they took exception, but it was true, because everybody in the stands, were fans of the opposite teams. Tennessee fans. I know good friends of mine, two good friends, who one Tennessee, one Alabama fan. And they would buy Vanderbilt season tickets every year and split them so that they can go to the road game of whatever team they support. And, so that was just reality. Vanderbilt's a smaller private school.
Just means more. Means more.
Yeah. So they would do that. So it was just true. But Vanderbilt stirred the passions of the fan base. They found enough people to tear down goalposts and throw it in the river. and now that, people streamed into the stadium to go do that, Now they're in the tent. Now they stay. Now they believe in Diego Pavia. Now they want to see some more. And maybe Clark Lee and company will be able to deliver it. How many SEC teams in the playoff? That's how we'll wrap it when you come back. Dan, we've hit the top of the SEC and some teams that we think that might be able to work their way into the top of the SEC when that selection day comes and the 12-team playoff is announced. How many teams from the SEC will be in the playoff?
I think they go back to 4. Obviously, it wasn't the year they wanted. This is tricky. They would have had 4 last year, probably, if not for a late field goal in the ACC championship game. But I think they get to 4, if only because the committee will be terrified of what would happen if they go to 3. No, I like Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and I'm going to go with LSU. I know it's a little chalk there, but I think those 4 all will have a very good case, and that'll be who will be there on Selection Sunday.
I think those 4 as well will go. I don't know exactly who I'm picking to win the SEC just yet. In all honesty, I think I'm leaning Alabama right now to knock off Texas, but wouldn't surprise me if Texas wins it this year. And I think that there will be the weeping and gnashing of teeth of the team sitting just on the outside will be a bit of a surprise. I think it's going to be Auburn sitting just on the outside of that coming. I think this is the year. If it doesn't happen this year, I have to wait and see what direction the Tigers go to. Auburn, South Carolina will be the 2 teams that'll be right in the mix. Auburn, a bit of a surprise there. And you can replace Auburn with Oklahoma if things really get going. It'll be one of those 2 teams that will threaten to make up an even bigger portion of the college football playoff field. Back on the College Game Day podcast, Dan and I have talked about the teams we believe that will be at the top of the SEC and some potential sleepers. A team that we probably should have given more attention to earlier in the podcast was Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz coming off a 10-win season. They're trying to put together back-to-back great years. They were +8 in turnovers last year. Still haven't won a conference championship since winning the old Big 8 in 1969. But you look at the schedule for Missouri, and it sets up pretty nicely. Or they can really get their feet under them in the first 3 games of the season. Central Arkansas, Kansas, who, despite the fact they have a great quarterback, has a lot of rebuilding to do. Probably talk about them a little bit in the Big 12 pod, especially since I picked them to go to the playoff last year. I won't do that this year. They've got Louisiana. They've got South Carolina, but it's at home, UMass, and then Alabama comes to them. They don't go on the road until mid-October against Auburn. And that'll give Bo Prabula, the Penn State transfer, a chance to kind of get in the mix there. I probably should have put them in as a potential sleeper, too. They've got, They lost guys. They lost Luther Burden. They lost the offensive lineman, Armand Mambo. They lost Nate Noel, Brady Cook. But they've got a lot of pieces coming back. So they're probably a team that we should have had in that sleeper category. So they're kind of on the periphery, but there's not a lot of margin for error because the schedule is not overwhelming. A lot of it's at home. They do have a tough road game at Oklahoma coming up in November. Now, the rest of the SEC, Dan, as you go through it, you've got teams like Mississippi State, who I think most people presume will be at the bottom. There's Kentucky. There's Arkansas. We haven't really talked about Tennessee either, and that's largely because Nico Iamaleava has moved on as well. And you don't know what you're getting at quarterback. Tennessee fans hoping Joey Aguilar will be great. But, there are teams that right now I'm looking at as kind of the bottom of the SEC, but maybe they have potential to move up. Who among this group, who do you feel good about? Who do you not feel great about?
Well, I think the potential, I agree with you on Missouri. Particularly, I do like that schedule. And I think we mentioned this last time, but the way the 12-team playoff allows is you don't have to be great on day one. You can even lose early, but you have some time to build up. And that Missouri schedule particularly does that. That South Carolina game, really for both teams, which I think is in late September, will be a big test. But for Mizzou, you've got some time, and that's a program on the rise. Tennessee's got the most overall talent of the groups the groups that's left, and it's all about Nico being at UCLA. And what do we do? what do we do here? Who's the quarterback? What's going on? But there's still, and there's, there's some questions about different guys, who's playing, who isn't. But for the most part, Tennessee, Josh Heupel has built up the program to where I feel better about them replacing spots and having the depth. They're anybody handed this where you lose your returning starting playoff caliber quarterback, it's going to be a blow to almost any program. So, but can they solve that at quarterback? I think Tennessee's going to be really good. I mean, there should be a very, very good team. We just don't know at such a position, and how will that can also be a rallying effect too. It's all we got. We all we need. Right. And so if they can do that, I like the Vols amongst that group.
They were so deep on the defensive front last year, and they lost a lot of those guys. But when you start going through it, they have a lot of those guys who are depth in that 10, 11 man rotation. They played on the defensive front. They have guys coming back, suffered, some losses on the offensive line, but they've got a freshman offensive tackle, a man called David Sanders that they're very high on. They got Stark Thomas, a running back from Duke, who was a productive player in his time in Durham, who is now there. There are weapons there. The question is obviously quarterback and the deal with Nico's transfer and what turned out to be a de facto trade with UCLA at quarterback, and then coming in summer. Report that some guys I've talked to around the Tennessee program said that Aguilar's come in and done everything that you would want from a leadership standpoint. But, just as we start practice, he's starting practice, except for the summer workouts and all of that. It's a new thing, and I think there's a lot of unknown there. But I agree with you. Heupel's proven himself, proven to be able to put the pieces together in short order. Their schedule with trips to Alabama, late trip to Florida in the season, Georgia at home. Those are the highlight moments. They've got Oklahoma at home and start with Syracuse. But there's an opportunity to put together solid.
Let me just say too, like, yeah, you lose Iamaleava and that hurts, and more of the college football is about the portal, who you bring in on the portal, but you can't really replace the core of a team without high school recruiting. Like, you still need these guys, and as much as you get this transfer from an FCS team, and this guy could be really good, so could the guy that was just sitting behind an NFL player. And that's what Tennessee has. Heupel has reignited the recruiting at Tennessee, to me, showing what a great program that is, showing what a great place to go to school that is, showing what a great atmosphere that is, showing the development. They're recruiting at a very high level again. And that builds what I consider a lot of faith in a program. And I think that's what Tennessee has. So fascinating season for Tennessee football.
Yeah. Look at even among these teams that we're anticipating will bring up the rear in the SEC. Look at the quarterbacks there. Mississippi State with Blake Shapen, who's played a ton of football there. Kentucky, presumably, is going to go with Zach Calzada, who has a win over #1 Alabama in his resume. And I don't love quarterback wins; they're not starting pitchers, but he was the quarterback that night for Texas A&M. Has stops at Auburn. Taylon Green at Arkansas, dynamic player. And if quarterback's the most important position, this could set the stage for a guy having a night and turning things upside down a little bit with some of the teams that we anticipate finishing at the top of the league.
It's going to be a dogfight, absolutely. And I think to use the dogs, Mississippi State's a perfect example, as you said, right? They have 20 guys returning that started at least a game last year. They hit the transfer portal hard. They hit JUCOs hard. They got the great all-name team, Fluff Bothwell, wide receiver out of South Alabama.
Yeah.
Gotta love it, right? I mean, I'm just assuming he's good. I'm just assuming. You sign a Fluff Bothwell out of South Alabama, he's going to be good. But this is when you have great quarterbacks and you've got some returners like that, yeah, there were 20 guys that started on a bad team, but they don't always remain bad. There's progress, and this is a program that just has been struggling since Mike Leach passed away, unfortunately. And, it's just trying to find its footing, but it's not hopeless at Mississippi State. And the idea that they could pop up and beat somebody, absolutely. Absolutely.
How many coaching changes at the end of the year in the SEC?
Ooh. Well, nobody's benefited more from NIL than SEC coaches because all the money's going to the players.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the money. Obviously, Sam Pittman is going to be on the hot seat. He got a chance to come back, and I think is this a Arkansas team that can get 6 wins, 7 wins, or whatever? Mark Stoops, what is his future there? This is 13th season, I think, in Lexington, has done admirable to great work at times. Where's the program headed right now? I think both of them would be probably the guys on the biggest hot seat. You talked about Hugh Freeze. If that goes sideways, anything could happen. Billy Napier, if it goes sideways, it's still SEC football. They don't have the money for these buyouts necessarily, but money tends to be found if seasons go wrong. So I'd put the over under at let's say 2.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Maybe I'm just the eternal optimist. Maybe I'm too nice about this. I'll take the under on that for some of the reasons you mentioned. I mean, Mark Stoops, he's the dean of SEC coaches. His success at Kentucky in terms of sustained success, well, last year was disappointing. There's no doubt about that, but it's unprecedented, in terms of being solid. You're gonna change that. I think,
and they're recruiting well.
They are, yeah. And I think Sam Pittman has fit very well at Arkansas. They need to win a few more games, yeah, probably. But they're winning record a year ago. Kind of looking at their schedule, they've got a couple of games, especially one non-conference game. I think they're at Memphis on the 20th of September. Kind of one you need to win, for the goodwill. You do that. People might understand they've got back-to-back trips to LSU and Texas in November, and then come home to play Missouri. I mean, that's a brutal end of your season. So you need to, and not to mention they've got Notre Dame the week after Memphis. So it's a pretty tough schedule there. Get off to a good start, and hopefully we'll take the under there.
Yeah, that Memphis game. I mean, Memphis just looms as a city with a lot of Arkansas alums, obviously right on the border. That's they got a lot of border games, right? They got Texas now all the time. You got Oklahoma's in the league. You got Missouri. You got, and not that anyone else isn't surrounded, but there's a lot of teams that Arkansas fans like to think they beat, and it's not easy to beat those guys. Certainly not anymore. Memphis is going to be a good football team.
You got a national champion out of the SEC or not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think. Look,
wait, are you calling your shot right now?
My shots are useless. My shots are completely useless.
Everybody's are. That's the thing with love.
I predicted Travis Hunter would win the Heisman last year, and I'm riding on that. All other bets were wrong, but the odds were so good on that, I would have made you money. No, absolutely, they can win the national championship. Texas can absolutely win it. Alabama can win it. I said earlier, I'm a Gunner Stockton fan, even without all of his personal attributes that I find endearing, like driving a 40-year-old truck. But I think any of those could do it. I don't know if I'm calling my shot. I'd have to see the matchups. I got to break the bracket down here, but would not be a surprise to me if they roll in and win it. I mean, look, Penn State's the biggest. Clemson are the biggest 2 teams in the way. We said in the Big Ten thing, like Penn State still got a lot to prove it. Clemson certainly doesn't have to as a program, but it's not like the earth has gotten flat, man. It's gotten flat. There's no great team where you're saying, boy, how are you going to beat them? And if there is a great team, it's probably in the SEC this year.
You brought this up a couple of times over the course of the pod, the 40-year-old vehicle that Gunner Stockton drives. How old's your car?
See, this is the thing. I should have the 40-year-old truck, right? But no, my car's like a 2021 Chevy Traverse. My car is boring. Quality product. I do live in Detroit. Quality product made up there in Lansing, Michigan, American made, or assembled, sort of American made. Whatever you're going to get out of a car these days. We try.
It's hard. It's hard to define.
Hard to define. Hard to define. Yeah. It's whatever. Some percentage.
Are you a car guy? Are you?
No.
I mean, well, I guess Chevy Traverse.
I'm a 1984
probably answered its own question.
I want that 40-year-old truck. If I could drive that thing around, you kidding me? I don't know. My daughters probably wouldn't get in it. I don't know what would happen, but I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'll talk to Gunner, see if he wants to sell the thing. Although Gunner Stockton's F-150 would go. I mean, it's got 300,000 miles on it, Rece. It's fantastic. It's the best vehicle in all of college football. I love it. You need a game day feature on it. Get Thamel that when Thamel's finally off this paternity leave, get him down there. Get him down there to see if they'll ride in the truck.
Does Pete? I don't know. Living in Boston, Pete owns. I don't know if Pete owns a car. Does he own a car?
He owns a car. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's got a car. It's not that. Yeah, he's still got to drive around. He's got a. Yeah, I think they got a couple of them. But anyway, he's got a whole decked out. Like one of those Jay Leno garages. Like no, he's got a.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I like a car with experience. I
have two cars that are mine. My wife has her car, whatever. One of my vehicles is 19 years old. And the other one is 9 years old. And so my wife's been kind of after me. She's like, you should trade cars. Why are you holding on to this car?
Paid for.
Well, yeah, right.
It's Dave Ramsey style here. We're going Dave Ramsey. This is turning into the Dave Ramsey podcast. Pay off your car.
So I was thinking, I was like, maybe she's right. It's been a while. I had to take her car, which is much newer, and to be serviced. And, you're trying to do the right thing, keep it under warranty. Don't do anything that would void the warranty. And when that dude, it was routine. There was nothing wrong. And the guy comes out with the bill. And I immediately said, yeah, no, I'm not trading cars. Yeah, I'm not doing that, because then you feel the obligation to try to do the right thing. And it cost all of this money for something routine. So, changing the oil's $1 million. It was like,
you need I got 6 months of payments here. Who on the game day set has the best set of wheels? Okay, we got Desmond, we got Herb Street, we got McAfee. Who's got, not my definition of the best, if you know what they drive. I don't think any of those guys are driving around in 84 F-150s. Because they can't be Gunner Stockton, but all legends of the 80s. No, actually, McAfee's too young for that. Who's got the best car?
You know what? I don't know what any of them drive except Pat. When I went to Thunderdome, a couple years ago, I know one of his vehicles, and I think with the sponsorship, he has another one. He had really nice cars. I'm not even sure.
What do you think they drive?
Herb Street drives.
He's driving some kind of SUV.
He drives like a Ford pickup or something like that.
Oh, he's got the dogs.
He's got to put all the dogs in the back.
Yeah.
So he's driving a pickup now. I don't know. It's a great. I don't know what Desmond drives. I mean, I've been to his house. Didn't go to his garage. No. What am I saying? Best set of wheels in the game day set. That's easy. That's Nick Saban. It's easy. Nick's got the Ferraris and the Mercedes. That's a blowout. What we're talking about is the second best. Who's second best? Nick owns car dealerships. So, I mean, he's...
see, this is why. Don't take my picks. I didn't even have him as a contender.
Yeah, see, this is easy.
Sleeper.
No,
Coach Saban.
This is like ethereal realm, and everybody else is JV. Yeah. I don't know. The other guys probably aren't JV.
He's got swag. Desmond is cool, but Coach Saban's the GOAT.
Doesn't Desmond have to drive a Nissan from the Heisman House? You see Desmond pulling up to the smoothie place in a RAV4 or whatever. No, that's a Toyota. What are those little Nissans called? I don't know. A Sentra.
Nissan Sentra. Yeah,
I used to have a Nissan Sentra way back in the day.
This is like when Tiger Woods had the Buick deal.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't think he's really driving a Buick. I don't know. Certainly not in his heyday. I don't think he was driving a Buick much. He may have owned one.
As we go full circle, as car owners, Nick Saban is a VHT, very highly touted.
Very highly talented. That's it.
Very highly touted. Thanks for listening to the College Game Day Podcast. Our conference previews will continue. Download wherever you prefer to get your podcast. Watch here on YouTube or subscribe and you never miss an issue.